minutes, please.
Thanks. I had intended a totally different line of questioning, but just based on what Ms. Leroy just said about the degree to which foreign governments are actually sinking their claws into Canada in order to do the things that you've talked about, I'd like to ask you to elaborate on that a little bit, and also to ask you to also elaborate on what we need to do to put a stop to that.
Your question from last time in 2 sentences, and that is, ideally it should be the government of Canada creating a doctrine. Over the past 25 years, and there are members of this committee who have participated in a number of these processes, we've tried to do this 5 times, and we have not yet succeeded in doing so. And until that time that we can come up with that, I would encourage and invite, through the chair, members of this committee to encourage and call on the government to develop this process, because parliamentarians can and should have oversight about the democratic engagement that we have. I can speak to Venezuela because I spent a number of years working on the crisis. And it is open knowledge in Canada through some of our investigation capacities that Venezuelan illicit funds have been in our banking and our casino systems for over a decade. The capacity is there's been a lack of political commitment and ability to respond to that. The Ontario Police and the Toronto Police have publicly acknowledged that the presence of Venezuelan gangs, and there was an announcement, I think it was like about 8 months ago, that there was a group of gang members that were actually turned back at the border. These are issues that do come up quite frequently and sort of get lost in the noise of everything else that is going on. Because if you look at the crisis in Venezuela, you're talking about a situation that I started working on in 2013, that every single year we would be asked, can it get worse? And the answer was, it couldn't possibly get worse. Yet we are looking at 13 years later, and it is functionally a failed state that has required foreign intervention to somewhat stem some semblance of stability.
Well, given that you've been inside of government, I mean, what I've just heard you say is that Parliament should be creating a doctrine, and it should be debated in the House of Commons, that the executive branch of our government then follows in terms of dealing with some of these situations. Whose responsibility is it? Like, how do we, are the questions, is the call to do this to the Prime Minister? Is it to, this is something I stand up in the House on a regular basis. I stood up in the House a few weeks ago and said, the IRGC is in Canada. We have people going missing. We have murders happening on Canadian soil. We have money being laundered through Canadian institutions. The ball is very clearly being dropped, and we get no responses to our questions. And so my question to you is, how do we demand better? What do organizations like yours, who are on the outside watching all of this happen around the world, what do organizations like yours have to say to us in terms of getting stopping the talk and stopping the platitudes and actually getting to work to be able to keep Canadians safe domestically?
Well, so domestically, your point of your counterpart is the Department of Public Safety and the various affiliated entities that report through public safety. Internationally, which is the work that we're talking about today, that would be going through Global Affairs Canada. Those two should be talking to one another. I do believe this committee is also simultaneously having a study on foreign interference that's happening simultaneously to this process. And I believe that someone from the Montreal Institute for Global Security will be, they just published a report specifically on this, and I would defer to the experts that have been focused on foreign interference in Canada to better answer that question.
Thanks very much. Do I have any time left? About a few seconds?
40 seconds. Go ahead.
I'm hoping the chair will indulge a bit, because Madam Kanuskaya, it is a privilege to have you here today in this committee, and I just wanted to ask a question of you that's a bit of a personal one, but you're in such a precarious and fascinating place because you're widely seen as the legitimate winner of Belarus's 2020 election, and of course you are leading a government in exile, and that means that you came into leadership under extraordinary circumstances. And I'm wondering if you might just comment briefly on the personal costs in terms of that role.
Madam Kronis, we will have after 3 minutes always. I will give Madame Tsuknaya to answer your question in full
Thank
time.
you.
OK. J'invite Monsieur Brunel du CEP de prendre la parole.
Ask Mr. Brunel du CEP to take the floor, please. Yes. Oh, please, I'll let Ms. Tsikhanouskaya answer the question that was just asked previously.
Oh, thank you so much. Look, of course, my life didn't prepare me for such position where you have to take responsibility not only for your family or children, but for the whole nation. But I really, I'm so proud of Belarusian people. I really enjoy their determinateness. I really see how going through tremendous difficulties in the country, outside the country, going through transnational repressions, having their relatives back in Belarus, they continue, to be active, even knowing that their relatives, their mothers can be detained in Belarus. We really achieved a lot for these 5 years. We managed to build alternative institutions of power. We managed to open case in International Criminal Court. We formalized relationship with the institutions, not be in the country. It's so many closed doors for us, but when you believe in what you are doing, when you have, allies in the world, you really believe in your course. So it's difficult. Very often I'm exhausted. It's so difficult for me personally, always ask for solidarity, ask for assistance, ask for support, because, it's like a little bit humiliating position, but you are doing this because you know that people trust in you, that people believe that, you put all your efforts, to help Belarusian people. I really spent so little time with my children, but I hope that they will forgive me because they understand that I'm doing this for them, for their future as well. And I'm sure that Belarus is not the lost case. I'm sure that, the changes in many countries, the dictatorial countries can start with Belarus. Very often I hear, oh, nothing will happen in Belarus until something happens in Russia. But I'm sure it's vice versa. Changes in Russia will start from changes in Belarus because our society is consolidated. Our society has this courage, to continue. And of course, my task is like fighting for Belarus, helping Ukraine as much as we can, not having power, not having like billions and weapons. Also one of our mission is to explain to democratic societies that you have to cherish what you have and you have to help those who are in need, because it's so easy to lose. This freedom, democracy is invisible. But when you lose it, you feel it. So help those who are fighting for you as well now, because regimes very clearly, feel this undecisiveness of democratic world. They're trying to poison the minds of your population, of your citizens. That why should you care? Why should you care about Ukraine or Belarus? Care about yourself, and it makes your nations like indifferent, to the problems of other people, indifferent to the fight for democracy. So it's not the easy path, but I see how many friends we have around the world, and I see how it's important becoming for other countries to defend the democratic principles and values. And we definitely have all the instruments, and tools to protect the world we are fighting for.
Merci pour